call it. But that's when that happened for me. And I surprisingly I still had the support of my friends and everyone. Like, it's so back home the LGBTQ community is welcomed. Like they are so loved over there. Like there's no they don't face a lot of criticism there. There's a big society of the LGBTQ community back home, and they are loved even in the churches, even at work. There's no discrimination with the LGBTQ there. So it made me feel good, that because so we do a lot of outreaching activities. There's and like a lot of community projects. So we're very welcomed over there. But as far as anything, my teenage days were just like any typical teenager, like but I was more at the time my grandmama was still alive. I was always with my grandmama, and I think that's where, like I started trying out makeup. I started trying on like, jewelries and all of that. It was always with my grandma. So, whatchamacallit, that's really my that's really my days being a teenager. So, yeah,
So
if
there's
that
another
answers your
comment for
question.
you. No, it does, for sure. So your flower is very beautiful. Isabel is saying that.
It's so okay. So
So tell
my
me about
grandmama. The
that
reason
flower.
why I have this flower, my grandmama never goes out the house without a flower, without a hibiscus this big on her hair. So that's where this comes from. So it's just a part of her that stays with me. So yeah.
We also
Oh,
have
thank
those
you,
flowers
thank
in
you,
Mozambique.
Isabel. Pardon?
We also have hibiscus in Mozambique.
Oh, really? Oh, wow, that's amazing. Let me tell
Yeah.
you this. I've never heard of your country, but just hearing you talk about it, it just makes me want to go there, So I'm not sure if I'm supposed to ask you questions, but I do want to ask,
No,
what
please
is
do.
okay, um, what's it like what's the LGBTQ status within your country?
Okay, so that's actually a very good question. I was actually going to tell you about that. Here in Mozambique is quite different. So people are not that open. It's starting to evolve in the last decades, I would say so. But it's still in the early stages of social acceptance and social uh, normalization. So we are having some organizations now moving forward and pushing an agenda of equality, of laws, and breaking barriers and legislation, trying to create a more inclusive society. But we still have a very traditional mindset in Mozambique. So it's very family oriented, with a very strong and rigid tradition. We have a very strong influence also of a religion, especially Catholic and Muslim. We have a large Muslim community in Mozambique as
Oh,
well.
okay.
So those,
That makes a
yeah.
lot of
So
sense.
that's yeah. So it's still in the early steps, but I would tell you it's much better than 10 years ago. So I'm optimistic. I'm most optimistic in that sense because I see an evolution and I see a way forward. And it's not that people are violent or so. It's nothing like that. It's not
Oh, okay, that's
dangerous.
good. That's
It's
good.
like it's like your father in a way. It's people feeling uncomfortable, and people are pretending not to look and then commenting and gossiping. It's more subtle. People try not to be uh, on a confrontational level, but it's on a gossip level, so people are still on that. And also, the worst space is always social media, so it's where people feel free to be trolls and idiots, and say everything and say stupid things. So,
Right.
but we also have a few artists now who are coming out and saying, I am gay, I am lesbian, and they are also giving an important a contribution, I would say, to everybody watching and say, yeah, they are talented. I like their music. I like his work or her work. So it doesn't matter if he's or her are gay or not. So, but we still have a long way to go in that way,
Right.
being
Right.
honest. And that's also one of the reasons I wanted to have you here, because I think one of the missions of my platform is also to trying to build a better world and open people's minds, and having you here is also a way of us in Freestyle Talks showing to Mozambican citizens and other African citizens and look
Right.
at Dedreck. He's amazing. He's doing an incredible work. He's talented, and he's gay. So he's a part of who he is. It's not a problem. It's his blessing, and he's light and he's shine. So that's also very important for us to give a small contribution to make it a little bit easier
Right.
and more
Right.
comfortable. Yeah. Uh, we we have two more comments. Let me put them. Actually, three. So Isabel is saying that in Portugal. So Isabel is in Portugal. She's saying in Portugal there is also an evolution on this acceptance of the LG.
Oh,
Yeah, I always
that's amazing.
yes, I always mess with the letters. So, but in Portugal, the situation is also improving. Um, and also, the other comment is Lami saying, You show us how to be happy and confident with ourselves. And thank you for that. You dance with passion. It's amazing.
Thank you,
And
Lamb. Is it Lamb?
Lamb. Let me put it back. Lamb, yeah.
Thank
So
you.
Lamb is my wife, actually.
Oh, thank you.
And she's watching, yeah, on the other side. Uh,
Amazing.
and she's a big fan of yours.
Oh my
And
gosh.
yeah, and Isabel is saying, unfortunately, also in Portugal, we still don't have 100% inclusive society. So it's still a long way to go. But I think a good message is that there is an evolution and a positive evolution. So we have reasons to keep pushing and to speed up at this building of a better society.
Right.
One other thing I wanted to ask is, still going back to your early years, you were studying to become what at that time, at 16 or 17 or 18? Uh, What was your dream job, your profession you
Um,
wanted to be at that time?
Actually, ever since I was young, this was at a young age, and like I mentioned that my mom was a nurse, she has always been my inspiration. So I've always wanted to be a nurse. So I went as far as I was going to start on my, so ever since from kindergarten, that's something that I've always wanted to do. And then coming up to high school, I still wanted to be a nurse. And then right after I got into college, and that's when everything changed because no. Actually, I was gonna get my CNA, but on that week I was offered a job to in Hawaii. And so that was working with autistic kids. And like I've mentioned that back home, like everything is not that expensive back home. So the minimum wage was like $6. So when this lady told me that the pay they gave us in Hawaii was like 1,000 something over after 2 weeks, that's like $1 million to American Samoa, right? So I was like, and she was paying for my fare, right? She paid for my fare, and she offered me the place to stay. So I was like, why not? Like this is an opportunity of a lifetime. So I did it. So that's where I stopped. That's when I stopped pursuing after that goal. Um, and so I was just working. I stopped going to school. Like it's like all of a sudden. I had this